Welcome to the Bromley Adult Education College Digital Drop-In Podcast, getting you back to work with confidence.
Hello, I'm Jill Collier and welcome to episode 32 of the Digital Drop-In Podcast. Today I'm joined by Paul Munday, who works for a university in London, and we'll find out which one in a moment. And I want to talk to Paul about where he started to where he is now and whether he feels he's got a good work-life balance and the different stages he's taken to get to this point. So hello, Paul.
Hi, Jill.
Thank you for your time today. So which university do you work at in London?
I work for the School of Oriental and African Studies, which is more commonly known as SOAS, which is part of the University of London. And I've been there for 2 years now, although I've been in education for 14 years. 14 years.
And what is your role? What is your role at the university you're at the moment?
So my role is I work within the undergraduate admissions department as an admissions officer, processing applications when they come in from predominantly school leavers and assessing them to make sure they have the relevant academic qualifications, English language qualifications, looking at personal statements, references, that sort of thing.
So you are the person that all the school leavers dread.
Yes, yeah. So, but they do have a bit of recourse because if they're borderline, we do forward on their applications to the relevant admissions tutor to make a decision. So if they're very close to the mark, for example, and we think they still may be a good fit, we pass it on to the admissions tutor who will be able to make a more informed academic decision.
Right. So, I mean, I would have thought the main part of that role has to be as soon as the A-level results come out to them starting in October. Is it sort of July to October is a very busy time? Or?
It is, yes, but it's not what people think a lot of the time. So, for example, we've just started the academic year for the new intake, which was September 2024. But we'll be looking at applications for the September 2025 intake as of probably the end of this month. So at the moment, applicants are applying through UCAS at the moment because they have to apply directly through UCAS rather than with us. We'll start getting their applications through at the end of the month and we'll start processing them, assessing them, and we'll be doing that for the next, right through to about May next year for the main cycle applicants.
Of course, I've just remembered that they actually do it on predicted, don't they?
Exactly, yeah. So you know, students will have predicted grades of A, for example, but it may be very well that when they get their A-level results, they've got lower grades, and that's where a period called clearing comes in. So when the exam results come out in August, if they haven't got the grades they want, or if they want to change where they've applied to, they can do through the clearing system. So that's when it gets mega busy, because people either get the grades they want and they're happy, they don't get the grades they want and they want to bargain to try and get in still, or go elsewhere, or they get better grades than they expected and they go to an institution that's got a better reputation than ours, so they may want to change elsewhere.
So are you oversubscribed, undersubscribed?
We've actually had a very good year. A lot of institutions are struggling at the moment because because of costs. For example, student fees are capped. I think it's £9,250, and it's been like that since 2017. So although students are getting a good deal out of it, it's still expensive for them, but the institution have got a rise in salaries for staff, building costs, electricity, whatever, but they're still only getting the same income from the students. So
yes, I hadn't thought about that. I mean, from a student's perspective, it's outrageously expensive to go to university now versus when we were younger.
Yes, very much so.
Free almost.
Well, it was free for me when I went to university. I had my course paid for and I got a maintenance.
Exactly. So from the student's point of view, it seems outrageously expensive now, and potentially they never actually pay that debt off,
Nice.
which we will talk about perhaps. But yes, from the university's perspective, they've got rising costs and not a rising income then.
Exactly, and there's,
Do they get funding from other places as well? Is there?
Well, the institution.
Yes.
Yeah, you might have donations, especially our institution, because it's slightly different. It's because there's a lot of Asian and African specific courses, like world philosophies, Black diaspora, various other courses that people are interested in that aren't also offered elsewhere. We do get people from ex-students or people from certain areas of the world who want to make donations towards the institution because of its reputation and what it teaches. So you do get donations come in as well, yeah.
Right, yes. So, well, you must be pretty dependent on that then if costs
yeah. But we have done very well actually this year. We've met our target on getting the students that we want, and I think we're doing better than a lot of other institutions.
I've not really thought about it. The reason I asked were you up to, were you over or undersubscribed, is if those wishing to go to university, if they get the correct grades, I kind of thought it was an automatic thing, but there has to be a human intervention to say, well, we've got 120% people, for example, that have got the correct grades, and that's when the personal statement comes in, or is the personal statement important?
We do look at it still. I mean, for example, if they need BBB to get in and they got AAA, it's pretty much what's the phrase, a shoe-in that they're going to get the place. But we do look at the personal statements, run our eyes over those to make sure that there's nothing that's that would indicate that they put a different institution down or a different course, so they haven't paid attention in their application form.
Right.
We do have to look at those for international applicants, especially if they need a visa, because when they apply for their visa, they have to show that they're a genuine student. So really, we have to look at that, in a more detailed background. But if someone's borderline, for example, they need BBB and a grade 6 in GCSE maths if they're doing accounting and finance, and they've got the BBB but a grade 5 in their maths GCSE, we would have a look at that and maybe refer that to an admissions tutor,
right,
for them to make a decision to see whether they think they'll be able to cope on the course. And that's when they look at things like the personal statement, the reference from the school, etc.
Yeah.
But we also do things called contextual offers, which looks at widening participation. So you look at someone, whether they've got free school meals, if they live in this thing called IMD, which is the index of mass deprivation or something like that. So we look at...
I have heard about this.
Yeah, yes. So we look at the postcode of where they live, for example. We look at if they're a carer or if they're in care, and all those things may have an impact. So, for example, if they meet 3 widening participation criteria, we may allow them a drop of 2 grades. So instead of having to get AAA, they can get ABB.
And I think even if their parents haven't been to university.
Yes, that's correct, yeah. If they're the first person, sorry to interrupt.
No, that's right.
If they're the first person in their family to go to into higher education, yeah, that counts as a plus for them as well. So
it's a very complex situation now, isn't it? It's there's so many different things that play into it. But for better or worse, that's what you've chosen as your career.
Yes, yeah,
to be an administration officer, or admissions officer. And I mean, I would say that is quite a responsibility, because people's ability to come to your university or not, you are a part of that decision.
Yeah, you've got to make sure the right person's coming to do the right course, because what you don't want them to do is you don't want someone who isn't going to be able to cope with the course. If they're coming somewhere and spending thousands of pounds getting a student loan out, and they haven't got the ability to complete it, then they're going to be wasting their time and money. They'll be, it's going to affect other people in the class as well. And, from their mental point of view as well, they may, if they can't cope with it, you can't just let someone in who's got ridiculously low grades, because you just won't be able to deal with it.
Does the university, I'm just curious, do you get, a bonus or any funding if somebody does complete as opposed to not completing, or is that?
I don't know. I'm afraid that's something I'm not really aware of.
No.
But
It's just a curiosity, I thought, really. But would you say there is much pastoral care at your?
Yes, massively. There's something that's happened a lot over the years. It's a big thing now. Mental well-being, mental health, supporting students on their. You've got people coming to. It's a massive jump. They might have the intellectual intelligence. I see some applications which are AAA, and then the grades for their GCSEs are all like 8s and 9s. Yeah, you see, you're on the new scale. See, I still work in A star, but yeah, you've got the 8s and 9s. But that they don't also know how to complete an application form, which is only natural because they've not had to deal with that before. So that a lot of these people are coming away from home for the first time.
That's the biggest thing, isn't it?
Yeah, you get a lot of students who live in London and still go to university in London and commute every day, but there's a lot of people moving away from home, moving to different countries, having to deal with finances for the first time, having to deal with cooking for the first time, which new circle of friends or maybe lack of friends, which could impact their study. So there's a lot to take on, and there's a big sort of student union there, and a lot of care taken over getting them to be able to adjust properly.
What does the student union do?
I don't know too much about that either, but you automatically think of the traditional way of thinking of the student union is the drinking, but it's not. There's a lot there. They're there to stand up for the students' rights if they, if there's a potential issue where the student thinks they've been treated wrongly by the college, for example. Like they don't think their complaints about their grading's been listened to, even though you have official channels to go through with the institution. There may still be disagreements, but they're there for all sorts of things to give.
But is the union solely, these 18 to 21-year-olds, or is there staff that also on the union?
It's mainly it's just students.
Just students.
So it's interesting you say 18 to 21 because SOAS is generally an 18 to 21 university, but you do get a lot of mature students now.
Right.
And where I worked previously was more a mature student. There's a lot of, because it was an evening college, there was a lot more older people going, but
right.
Yeah, you do have.
I've made a huge assumption there, haven't I? That people go at 18 or 19.
There's a lot of. I mean, myself, I went when I was 21, so it's in that even 3 years difference is, you've got the life experience of working for 3 years or supporting yourself for 3 years, and whereas a lot of people just go straight from school.
Yeah. Actually, well, let's just rewind a bit then, because you are in education now, and as a child you were in education, but there's a big chunk between when you left for presumably at 18.
Left school at 18 after 2 years sixth form where I did my A-levels.
And then what happened?
Worked for a bank for 3 years, so I was doing cashiering, in those days processing a lot of checks, because obviously what a lot of people won't remember what checks are, but we had a lot of checks we had to process and data input. But I did that for between 1990 and 1993. I was working for National Westminster Bank, but then got pretty bored of that, and decided to move on.
So you went back to education.
So went into higher education. Decided to go to university because I felt I'd missed out. So a lot of people I knew had gone to university at 18, and I was living at home still, with virtually all my friends at university, and me just going to the bank every day.
Again, that sort of endorses that, me saying people are 18 to 21 when they go to university, absolutely wrrong. So did you feel older at 21 going, or not?
No. I've got a very I've always immature is the wrong word, but I'm the Cliff Richard mind. I do feel a lot younger in my head a lot of the time.
It wasn't an issue.
No, it wasn't an issue for me there.
No. So did you enjoy university?
Oh God, I loved it. Yeah, it was great.
Was it everything you hoped for and more?
Yeah, I'm still, and the best thing is I'm still friends. I spend every New Year with my university friends, which was what we left in '96. That's 30 years.
Yes.
Over 30 years I've known them now. So yeah, I'm still very good friends with them and go on holiday with them.
A bonding experience.
Yeah, very good.
So you left university with a degree in something?
Yeah, I got a 2-1 in geography. So even though I went to what was then known as West Sussex Institution of Higher Education, which became Chichester Institute of Higher Education, I actually got my degree. It was awarded by Southampton University, so got that in geography. And then I went into the civil service, which I didn't need my degree for. But
and was that because you looked for something to do with geography and couldn't find it at the time, or this was just
I think I just
an opportunity that?
Yeah, it was an opportunity that arose. I was probably a bit gung ho in just looking for a job straight away to get the money coming in, and maybe looking back in retrospect, I didn't do as much research as I should have done. But yeah, I stayed there for 3 years, and it was in those days working for a bank or for the civil service was quite a staple job to do. But yeah, it's quite good.
So then you realised you'd done your 3 years, you got your experience. What offerings did you have after that?
I went travelling to Australia for a year. So I left the civil service again because I didn't really sort of see myself being there for years and years. A bit similar to the bank, I didn't see myself being there for life. The problem is my dad had worked in the same job for 30 plus years, and you always think at that time that's what I'm going to be doing, but I couldn't see myself in a bank for 30 years, couldn't see myself in civil service for 30 years. So yeah, I decided to just do something completely different and saved up some money and went travelling to.
Amazing. And you got a work visa, presumably?
Yes, I got a work visa, and I went out in January 1999 till December 99. Flew out to Sydney and then travelled sort of New South Wales, Victoria, Tasmania, up to Cairns, Northern Territory.
And did your geography kick in here?
Yeah, well, geography is interesting. People think geography is just places, but when I was at uni, geography was we did all sorts of things like human geography, things like migration, immigration, architecture, literary geography, looking at geography in books and things like that. So it was very different from just your sort of geography as a map type thing. Okay. But yeah, it was quite useful when I was in Australia, but that was fascinating and I'd highly recommend.
And then the reality that you had 1 year visa, did you?
Yeah, I made a mistake. I thought I'll come back to the UK for the millennium, and again in retrospect, I wish I'd stayed out in Australia because it would have been a bit warmer. And Australia's a very good country. It's very positive. It's a lot of people think that people are arrogant out there, but I think they're just go-getters. They enjoy life. They do what they want to do to enjoy life. But I came back.
My understanding is they do have a good work-life balance.
Yes, massively, and I think the weather
they
helps.
want to go to the beach before work, and they're not under quite not the whole of Australia, but people I know that have gone say that they're not under the pressure that they were under.
No, it's very different here. Again, in Australia, the weather's not everything. If you're in Melbourne, for example, it's very much like the UK. But yeah, no, they've got a good work-life balance. But yeah, I came back after a year, and because I enjoyed travelling over there, I actually got a job involved in travel back in the UK. So I worked for a small tour operator called African Safari Club. And
do they still exist now?
No, they actually went under about a year or two after I left. Not because of me, but
so many. The reason I ask is because so many tour operators, I think, with the internet and people doing their own research, there's not quite such a dependency on them, is there? No,
and they weren't the most flash holidays, but they were good. I mean, I remember we used to sell, I think, 2 weeks in. 2 weeks in Kenya, self-catering for £300, including flights, which was ridiculous. But that was a long time ago. It's 20 years ago now. So, but yeah, cruises around the Indian Ocean, safaris to Masai Mara, Savo East. We had accommodation in a place called Butama. You could do deep sea diving, which I did. I made the opportunity of using as much travel, got a free holiday every year for 8 years.
I think that used to be a perk of working in places like that. You would get either very cheap or free holidays. And I think sometimes you actually got to go out to see some of these places so that when you were talking to people on the phone, you could...
I actually organised them to do educationals for new members of the staff.
Educationals, that's what they were called, educationals.
But it was quite a tight time. You fly out to Africa for 4 days and you do a tour of all the accommodation, go on a 1-day safari. So that exactly what you said, when people are selling holidays, the reservations clerks, they'd know what they were talking about. So, I stayed in Watamu, or I stayed in, I can't remember what the other place was called now. Shanzu Beach, they say I've stayed in that accommodation and I've done that safari and I've been on that cruise ship. So you said that was a very happy time. Yes,
Did you enjoy it?
Oh, it was very good. A very close-knit team. It was local, got paid well, got free holidays. It was great.
So why did you leave?
I was a manager for quite a while and was doing people management, and that could be quite tough. So I found it's quite stressful. And then there was sort of various issues with not being able to travel to Kenya for Foreign and Commonwealth Office advice, because there had been some incidents out there, like bombings of hotels, not our ones, but it meant the FCO said don't travel there, so that knocked sales effects. You got rid of staff, and then you were doing double the work with half the staff.
So it was time to move on.
Yes.
And did you stay with travel, or is this where you worked back to education?
I took a year out and went to, well, not a year, probably about 8 months, and went to work in a youth hostel up in the Lake District for 8 months.
Wonderful.
So I was doing everything from cleaning showers and toilets to reception work to cleaning bedrooms, cooking dinners.
And why the Lake District, not Europe or...
God, I've done a lot of youth hosteling myself over time, and I loved hiking.
So the Lake District worked for you.
It was fantastic. Yeah, it's really, really good. So I did that, but that was not sustainable because it was poor pay. You got your accommodation and food included, but I had a mortgage down south still, so I couldn't stay doing that. But it was a nice break.
So what an experience, though. An amazing experience.
And then came back and fell straight into education.
So where is it that you were working? I think you said for 12 years you were...
Yeah, so at Birkbeck, which is does degrees, undergraduate, postgraduate, doctorates, but it's predominantly taught in the evening. And so the students' body was very different. It wasn't 18 to 21. There's a lot of mature students, people who had families, who worked during the day and then were doing degrees in the evening.
So what was the main demographic then of people, or, when you were there, did it change a lot in the 12 years? Or?
It was a real mix. And there's a lot of international students there, because that's where, you have to rely on a lot of international students for the finances.
Yes.
And that's actually what I ended up doing, was a lot of student visa, helping, assessing applications, not from the academic side, but if they required a student visa, making sure they meet the Home Office criteria to apply for a visa. So we checked that they got the right English language, they got the right finances, because even they might have the academic qualifications, they might have the English language, but they might not have enough money to come here. And when you apply for a visa, you have to show the government that you've got enough money to cover the cost of the course, plus I think it's about £12,000. Yeah, so you might get that, and then if they meet all those criteria, we issue them with a special number which they use in their visa application.
Right.
And that's what we're saying to the government, that we've assessed them, we believe they've got the ability to study here, and they've got the background, the financial background, and they're a genuine student. And then they can submit their visa application, and then they get assessed all over again, but by the Home Office.
So this could take a year then?
Well, it can take...
As in if they were starting sort of about now for next year maybe?
Yeah, and the problem is you get a lot of last minute people applying, and but the problem is any part of the world, but in certain parts of the world, visa applications take a long time. You could apply for a student visa in France, it'd probably be very quick, but if you apply for one from, I don't know, Cambodia, the process can be a lot longer in them getting it, so it's very different.
And thinking of, British or people that are living in the UK at the moment, I don't know, let's say I wanted to go and do a degree there. What do you need? What do you have to provide? If you're saying a more mature student, what would I have to provide? Would I still have to provide my qualifications from when I was at school?
Yes, in the institution I'm at the moment, you'd have to meet the academic criteria, and if I'd have to dig out my A-level certificates. So I'm 52 now.
You don't need to know.
That's all right. I'm 52, and I've still got all my certificates and things like that, so I can produce them. You'd still have to meet the academic qualifications.
And if you couldn't produce them, you just have to take your qualifications again.
You would need to. You could write to the exam board and get copies of them if you haven't. But if you haven't actually got any qualifications and you've just decided to take a new path, unfortunately, you probably wouldn't be offered a place. You'd be advised to do something like an access to higher education course first, or a foundations or something like that. And then once you've done that, the following year you could apply. But yeah, unfortunately, you wouldn't get in just based on experience or anything like that.
Thinking of Birkbeck, where you said you worked for the 12 years, which is probably more akin with the more mature student, perhaps. If they are doing a degree course just of an evening, I think you're saying, does it take the same amount of time, or did it take more years?
Yeah, you can do you could do full-time or part-time. Say, for example, undergraduate degree, where I'm working at the moment, it's only full-time, but you could do a full-time degree in 3 years or a part-time degree in 4 years. But obviously it's a lot more pressure because you're working during the day a lot of the time.
That's what I'm thinking,
and a lot of people had families and things like that. I take the hat off to people who could do that, really.
No, I agree. That's just what I was thinking. To do it on top of a job would be hard work, wouldn't it?
Oh, massively, yes.
And do people of my age or any age, if they have got the right qualifications, are they still offered the same funding?
Again, I'm not too sure on the funding side of it, because I don't really get involved with finance or fees. We guide them to it because it's another complete area of expertise. And when you go to do, if you apply for funding, they have a whole Student Finance England who do the student loans, have a different set of criteria you have to meet. And
yes, I understand.
But you get a lot of people. There's scholarships available in institutions, or there's a lot of people's governments, especially like from Kuwait or Saudi, or have the consulates sponsoring them.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
why would that be?
They want students to come to the UK and get their degrees from here, and I suppose what they hope is that they come back and spread the education, their knowledge back in their country. But they often sponsor a lot of their students to come to the UK. Yeah.
Gosh. So, and that is good news for the UK universities.
Yeah, and this is why I think, not that I want to delve into it too much, but you see a lot of immigration on the news, and they always talk about students, but students really should be taken out of the equation because they're only temporary. They come here, they come here and they go home. It's and they bring in massive amounts of money to the country, whether it's for the institutions themselves, accommodation. A lot of people rent out flats. What they put into buying groceries, the social side of things. Yes, they do use the health service, and they had to pay a IHS immigration health surcharge. Again, I don't know what it is, but they had to pay that on top of their visa fee. But they come here and they invest a lot of money into the country. Yeah. And they can sometimes they might get a post-study work visa afterwards to stay and study. To stay and work afterwards. Yes.
So you were at Birkbeck for 12 years, and you were a visa and compliance team leader.
Yeah.
So again, this was taking you back almost to your travel company, in that you were having to manage people, which didn't make you very happy?
No, it depended. It was a mixture. There was, working with people. Some people thrive on it, and challenging situations. I had some issues with certain members of the staff, which made life quite tough. Dealing with them, they were quite hard to manage. But I think a lot of the problem was we didn't necessarily have the. You can sometimes get a lot of business coming through the door, but not enough resources.
Yes.
But it can be. It was quite difficult.
That causes stress in itself, doesn't it? Because you're sort of sort of overworked, and you're also trying to manage people, and it's an awful lot of stress.
Yeah, and I've never been a person who wants to work my way up the ladder. I'm a great believer in just there's a big place for people to just go and do their job and then come home and live their life. And
this is what you've learned over the years, really, isn't
Yeah.
it? I mean, when you first start working, you're a little bit like a rabbit in the headlights. You don't really, you suddenly got to do this for probably 48 weeks a year, whereas
Yeah.
you've come from school, which was potentially 36 weeks a year. You were always thinking 6 weeks and a half term, 6 weeks and
Yeah.
an Easter holiday. Suddenly you're going to full-time work, and
it's
a
very
huge
difficult.
shock, isn't it?
Yeah, massively.
And none of us quite know what to expect, but life, you have life experience.
Yeah, and I think that's what I like, having that work-life balance, and I've got absolutely no issue with people who want to work their way up the ladder at all. Some people are very career-minded, want to do all the extra hours that God sends, and to work their way up. And for me, I'm happy to go and do my job and go home. And I'm a great believer in every job is important. So one of the jobs I had, one of my many other jobs, was when I was a student, I worked as a cleaner in a hospital. And I know people who used to clean up in a surgery in the operating theatre afterwards.
Really?
Not that I did that myself, but that job's just as important as the brain surgeon, because the brain surgeon wouldn't be able to work in that operating theatre if they didn't have the cleaner to.
No, absolutely. So you feel that when you did your 12 years at Birkbeck, was it the sort of the people management side that made you think, well, maybe I'll look at, which is what made you move on to onto SOAS?
Yeah, and I was very lucky because SOAS is directly opposite Birkbeck, and I love the area where I work. That's a massive plus for me. I looked at a lot of institutions, like Queen Mary's, for example, brilliant reputation.
That's Roehampton, though, isn't it?
Mile End.
Oh, Mile End.
Yeah, Mile End. So it's but the problem with that is it's getting there.
Yes.
You have to get into London, then you have to commute around the underground.
It's almost as far out the other side, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's a very good, better pay there.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, and it's a good institution. Not that mine isn't, but
No.
it was just got a very, very good reputation.
Whereas Birkbeck and SOAS are based where?
Russell Square.
Oh, right.
So it's lovely. We've got Russell Square, Gordon Square, Tavistock Square, Coram Fields. It's lots of greenery, and you've got a lot of it's a residential area. You've got a lot of tourists. You've got a lot of students. You've got a lot of business people. So there's sort of four, for example, different types of people.
Yes.
So it's quite a mixture in the area. It's not just students, and it's quite nice having that variance.
So do you feel that you've just about nailed it now, getting the life balance,
Yes.
kind of work and everything sort of about right working for SOAS?
Definitely, yeah. And all I would like is maybe an extra day working at home. I work 3 days in the office, 2 days at home. I look back on it now, and I don't know how we worked 5 days a week in London, because commuting at my age is it does take it out of you a little bit, and I don't know how people do it with families. I really don't, but a lot of people do.
Yeah.
I've got a colleague who commutes in twice a week from Norwich into London. Working from home 2 days a week's good, but I would rather it was 3.
Yeah.
But it's good because when you do go into the office, you mix with other people. This week's been great because we just finished Welcome Week last week, so I was dealing with students, answering their queries, etc. We have open days, we have admissions days. So
And they want to see you face to face, surely.
Exactly, yeah. So it makes a difference to see people rather than just see an email.
Yes, absolutely. And so you kind of got it right now then. So you have a sort of a job that you enjoy.
Yeah.
Is it fulfilling?
Yes, I'd say it was. It does what it says on the tin. I'm not unhappy there. I think you've got to enjoy a job that you do. Mine's very repetitive, very regimented. It's doing this more or less the same thing every day.
And it's an annual. I mean, it kind of must refresh.
It's cyclical, yeah. It's you have different things at different times of the year. Like now's a down period, and we'll soon pick up again with the start of the new applications. Then comes beginning of next year, we start getting towards the summer, preparing for the summer when it goes crazy. So yeah, it has its ebbs and flows, but yeah, it's a good job to do.
You can sort of walk away at the end of the day and enjoy your evening without sort of undue stress.
Exactly. I don't want to think about work when I'm out, so I can walk away to do my running, which is something I like. I do a lot more of now, and I'd like you need time to do your hobbies.
You do, yes.
You need your work to earn your money, to enjoy what you're doing for 35 hours a week, and then you need to earn that money so you can spend on what you want to do.
Absolutely.
If that makes sense.
It does. Well, thank you so much for your time, Paul. I've really enjoyed listening to your story and how you have returned to education, and I think it's very important that people do recognise that your career is only an aspect of your life, isn't it? It's not your life. It's just a facet of it.
Yeah,
really, isn't it?
And one thing I'd say is if you're unhappy, do look around, because I've not been unhappy in all my jobs at all, but it's taking a while to find the right thing.
And I think it's not where you start, it's where you finish. Not that for a second I'm saying you've finished, but you've experienced a lot of things, and it gives you a good flavour for life, doesn't it?
It's all the cliches are true. It's about the journey, as they say, and the reason you have cliches is because they are true a lot of the time, and it's not always the destination, it is the journey you take,
and now you can bask in your realisation that you've found something that works for you, can't you?
Yes, so, definitely.
Wonderful. Well, I hope you have many more happy years at SOAS.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Bye-bye.
This podcast has been produced by Jill Collier for Bromley Adult Education College. For help with all your job searching needs, do visit one of our digital drop-in venues. Our free sessions are advertised on our website at www.baec.ac.uk or telephone 0208 659 7976. We offer free use of computers for job searching, advice on creating a winning CV, plus lots of short training courses to gain skills in the digital world. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast to receive notifications of new episodes.